I, teen female, and my family are pretty dysfunctional, to say the least. Arguments happen at least once a day, and I mean full-blown screaming arguments. All the arguments involve my parents. In the house, there's me, my half-brother, 19, my little sister, tween, my dad, and my mom. Mom and Dad decided we needed family therapy, and to be honest, I was all on board with going at first. However, after the first session, my mom and dad punished my half-brother and me for what we said to the family counselor. They took away my laptop that I need for study, and they took away my half-brother's gaming PC, which he also uses for study. To put it simply, it became obvious to both of us that we couldn't speak our minds during the therapy session without being punished for it later, especially if mom and dad felt offended or upset by what we said. So the next session, I literally said nothing, not a single word. My half-brother did the same. When questions were directed at us, we sat there in complete silence and just stared at the counselor. Mom and Dad were angry with us for not contributing, but we continued to not say a word. The therapist was trying to encourage us to speak. Still, we continued to stay silent and ignore all questions and discussions. But when we got home, we were not punished. So that's a significantly better outcome for us. In fact, I think my mom enjoyed the extra time she got to talk when my half-brother and I were silent. However, I did admittedly feel kind of bad for the therapist. She was trying hard to get us to talk, and I know she's just trying to do her job. On the other hand, I also felt quite rude when she asked me a question, and I straight up ignored her like she didn't exist. It's not that my half-brother and I are deliberately trying to be rude. We just don't want to be punished. My dad also thinks we're trying to sabotage family therapy. Our situations won't get better unless we actually talk during therapy. However, how can we talk during therapy if we're just punished for it later? I genuinely want things to get better in our family because I love my mom and dad a lot, but I just can't risk it. I also admit the idea of staying silent during therapy was mine. My half-brother agreed with me and went along with it, but the idea was ultimately mine. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Call the therapist and let her know why y'all were silent, or give her a note at the beginning of therapy telling her what happened and why you were staying silent. Then you and your parents should have separate sessions. I don't know how your father thinks things will get better if you aren't free to speak without being punished. Yeah, I would like to think that the therapist put two and two together and suspected that there was some sort of backlash over what was said during the previous session. On the other hand, I'm sure that children suddenly giving the silent treatment in a family therapy session has been done before, and I'm sure it's a huge red flag. Not the idiot. The people who are sabotaging the family therapy aren't you and your half-brother. It is your parents who are sabotaging. You should not be punished for what you say in therapy. However, if your statements based on your observations/perceptions hurt their little feelings, then oh well. Unfortunately, some parents don't engage with family therapy in the right way. They see it as, how can I fix my kids? Which can often mean, how can I get my kids to be the way I want them to be? Or how can I get my kids to see how perfect I am? They also refuse to do any self-reflection. Frankly, I wouldn't speak up either, but by punishing you for speaking, they made a complete joke of the entire process of therapy. It's now worthless. By the way, we can empathize with the whole full-blown screaming arguments every day, and I still love mom and dad. I suspect many people are going to not get this, but I get it, and it's tough. My friend Phil lost his wife due to health complications, and it's been hard on him and the kids. He needed a place to stay after he lost the house. His wife was the sole breadwinner due to his disability. He cannot walk. We always planned on having a large family, so we have 5 bedrooms to spare for him and his 2 daughters. He's moved out and since gotten back on his feet financially, but we still help out a bit with the girls and come over to help him handle things. My wife and I have started trying for a baby, and we hit gold. We're due next spring, and we decided to have a get-together to let our friends and family know. Phil was there with his girls, and when we made the announcement, Phil got up and left immediately without saying goodbye. We called him as soon as we saw he was gone. He said it was super selfish of us to announce that we're pretty much replacing his girls with our own kids. He called my wife out especially for leaving the girls without any sort of mother figure, and that it would only confuse his girls to have my wife suddenly stop giving them attention. We sympathized and gave him time, Then we offered him an invitation to our baby shower, which was left open until last week. We saw on social media he was saying some pretty heavy things about pregnant women and child abandonment. My wife and I were uncomfortable, so we uninvited him. The shower is this coming weekend, and he's been angry at us since we told him kindly not to come. Are we the idiots? Not the idiot. Phil kinda seems like an entitled too. He thinks that his daughters are entitled to your and your wife's attention. You aren't allowed to have a child of your own because that would be taking attention away from his daughters. Maybe he needs to remember that you and your wife do not exist to serve him and his family. Yeah, he went through something horrific and awful, but he's attacking you for what? Wanting to have your own family? You helped him a lot, and now he's mad because he can't have everything. You can empathize with Phil's loss and still feel that he reacted poorly to your good news. It is unreasonable to think your family would choose to remain childless because he lost his wife. You're setting a good boundary with someone who has demonstrated he can't react reasonably right now. You are not the idiot. Yeah, Phil needs time and therapy. Until he does, he's not healthy right now to interact with OP's family. The abandonment issue Phil raises sounds a lot like projection. I immediately thought this guy is mad at his wife for dying, for abandoning him and his girls. It's not rational, and she didn't intentionally die. But Phil is still angry, and there is no one he can direct his anger towards. Blaming his wife who passed isn't productive and doesn't feel good. He's likely projecting it in a way that does make him feel better by letting some of the anger out, even if it's at the wrong person. Not the idiot. He clearly is, though. I think it's probable that he's not in a good space. However, it is still absolutely unreasonable that he expects you to be a mother for his kids and not have any of your own. That is devoid of all logic. I think he saw you as a replacement for his wife in terms of raising the kids, and is bitter and angry that his sweet situation is coming to an end. Actions have consequences. Of course he shouldn't be invited. Congratulations on the baby. Ever since I was a kid, I loved cooking. I would explore recipes from newspapers, cookbooks, friends, mom, etc. My grandma shared many family recipes. I bonded with my mother-in-law over our shared interest in cooking food. If my husband or kids like a recipe, I generally print it out and stick it in a box. Over the years, I have a solid collection, and my husband made me a shelf. I am a slight perfectionist, so I decorate, label, give all my books indexes. Most of my books are classified based on what my son, daughter, or husband likes, or dessert books, oven books. Some are differentiated based on cuisines, while some recipes that don't fall under any category are kept in another book. 1 month ago, my sister-in-law and family, husband's cousin and wife, came over, and I decided to make a casserole dish that my mother-in-law taught me. The book which I used had a lot of recipes taught to me by mother-in-law. Most recipes are there on the internet, but my mother-in-law always added a twist, so it was personalized internet recipes. My in-laws came right before I was done cooking. After they left, I had to make an alteration to the recipe as I used an extra bit of pepper. I couldn't find the cookbook. I searched everywhere, all over the house, the cupboards. Finally, I called my sister-in-law and asked her if she saw my book to trace back where I left it. She was in the kitchen with me and was looking at the recipe while doing some final touches on the dish. Sister-in-law said she didn't know. My husband and kids also searched and we couldn't find it. I was distraught and spent the whole weekend crying because it felt like losing a part of me. That book had so many special recipes. I tried to get some of the recipes by asking mother-in-law and some from the internet, but it didn't feel like my book. Yesterday, my husband and I went to my in-laws' house to celebrate my husband's cousin's 40th birthday. My sister-in-law made honey chili chicken and a lot of other food. The chicken tasted a lot like mine, so I asked her to lend me the recipe and told her how I lost my recipe book. My husband's cousin asked me, how could I say I lost it, considering sister-in-law told cousin that I let her borrow it? I was livid and shocked, and my husband asked her if it was true. By then, cousin brought the book out, and it was my book. I got mad and asked her why she stole the book. If she ever needed a recipe, I could have shared it via text. I was mad she took it and continued to lie about it. My sister-in-law asked me to calm down and stop ruining a dinner over a stupid cookbook. I told her she wouldn't understand what it meant to me, took the book and went home. The family has been spamming texts, saying I was the idiot for ruining cousin's birthday and making a huge deal over a book. Am I the idiot? She stole your cookbook, and you're the one making a big deal about it? Guess we know who the golden child is. Really, if she wanted a cookbook, she could ask to borrow it and, make copies of the recipes. Or ask if for her birthday you could make a copy of the cookbook for her as a present. But no, she stole your cookbook and had the nerve to say you ruined the evening. Nope, she did that. She should count her lucky stars. OP isn't reporting this crime. But OP, don't let her get away with that so easily. I would suggest you put the cookbook in safety for some time and save the recipes by typing them down or taking pictures of the pages. Not the idiot. She knows it was important, which is why she stole it, because she knew you wouldn't give it away. She knew she was in the wrong, otherwise she wouldn't have lied. She's a grown adult who still thinks she can steal whatever she wants and doesn't have to apologize for it. From what you described, it was very clearly homemade and had a lot of work put into it. So her trying to play off that it wasn't important is funny, considering it was important enough for her to steal it and actively work to try and hide it. Also, you didn't ruin the cousin's birthday. Your sister-in-law got caught in her lie and tried to insult you for being rightfully upset instead of apologizing. Now you know your sister-in-law is a liar and a thief. Have you noticed anything else missing after her visits? You need to have a conversation with your husband on how to handle this. I would not want such a person back in my home. Do not let her back in your home. I would never trust her again. She stole from you, lied about it, and then tried to gaslight you, and succeeded in front of everyone. She is not a good person, and I would never trust her after this. It doesn't matter that it's just a cookbook. It's your cookbook, and it's important to you. Absolutely 100% you are not the idiot, OP. I, female 30, have been married to my husband 33 for 6 years. We have a pretty much normal life, stable income, and are planning to have kids soon. I consider myself a thoughtful person. I just like putting a lot of effort into gifts, whether it's a holiday or a birthday for my loved ones. For example, ever since I met my husband, I've always put so much effort into his birthday by getting him thoughtful, nice, sometimes expensive gifts, like his favorite sneakers, brand wristwatches, useful fancy equipment, and gaming devices. However, he doesn't do the same for me and never puts any thoughtfulness or care into his gifts. Not only that, but he sticks to the same gift every year, which is a chocolate bar. It's frustrating since he knows what stuff I prefer to be given on my birthday, but he doesn't change his ways. Last year I gifted him his favorite gaming device for his birthday after I went through the trouble to obtain it and for money. 2 months later it was my birthday, and he gifted me a chocolate bar again, and I was frustrated and upset. His birthday was days ago, and I didn't buy him anything fancy or expensive this year. I stopped by the market to get him something, since I was tired of driving to the gift shop. Once he saw the gift I bought, which was a keychain, not a fancy one, he went off asking if I was making fun of him, and insisted on knowing where the actual gift was. I said there was no gift. This was the actual gift. He called me unbelievable to pick this thing as his 33rd birthday gift. We argued, and I reminded him of what he gifts me every year and compared it to what I give him. He looked offended, saying first, I'm a doctor and can afford what I get him, while he can't afford to get what I wanted. And second, he reminded me that our marriage is not a transaction where we were supposed to benefit from each other. He threw a fit, saying he didn't appreciate my lack of care and consideration for his birthday, that he was looking forward to his gift, but is now disappointed. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He can't expect fancy, thoughtful gifts from you if he doesn't bother even to think what would make you happy. There are so many inexpensive things you can buy for your partner's birthday. Heck, even cooking their favorite dinner would be a thing. Also, considering that your marriage is not a transaction, it feels quite hypocritical of him to expect expensive gifts just because you're a doctor. Not the idiot. From what I read, he's taking advantage of you and taking you for granted, along with the consideration and thoughtfulness you are putting into his gifts. For him to try to say that you can afford more versus him is very wrong. If he's your husband, that is a big red flag. He doesn't have to use his entire month's worth of paychecks for the present, but a chocolate bar, compared to what you've given him, He only cares about himself and he's a prick. No offense to you. My husband wrote me a long love letter and put together pictures of us and some mini presents, and I was more than grateful. It's the thought that counts, not the dollar signs. I think she should have just bought him a chocolate bar, and when he whines about deserving more expensive gifts because her income is higher, she should have just bought another chocolate bar. You earn more than me. Yeah, that's why I got you 2 whole chocolate bars compared to the one you get me, honey. So I, 23 female, was at a restaurant with my boyfriend, 24. The restaurant isn't a Michelin star-esque place. However, the place does serve well-prepared food, so you can likely guess that the majority of its patrons want to be able to enjoy their food. So while my boyfriend and I were there was a family about 2 tables over from us. This family consisted of the parents, who I'd say were in their late 20s to early 30s, and their 3 little children. While my boyfriend and I were enjoying our meal, the youngest child began shrieking for the reason that I can't fathom. When I say shrieking, I'm talking about the ear-piercing type that is physically painful. This goes on for about 10 minutes. By this point, I'm getting annoyed since I paid to enjoy my meal, and the child isn't shutting up. I walked over to the family's table and asked if someone could take the child outside until it calmed down since people were trying to enjoy their food. The mother got angry with me, saying that her son is only a child and that I need to show some compassion. I responded by telling her that I paid to enjoy my meal and that if she isn't going to get her child to be quiet, she needs to do everyone in the restaurant a favor and take the child outside. After I sit down, I see the mother calling over one of the waiters. She proceeds to tell them that I was rude to her and that I was making her uncomfortable. One of the other patrons told the waiter that that wasn't the case and that she had been allowing the child to cry while others were trying to eat. The parents left eventually, but not before shooting me an evil look. I told my friend about this, and she told me that I should have been kinder and more considerate to the family, since being a parent is difficult. I told my friend that they chose to have kids, and as such they need to parent them better. My friend didn't seem to like what I said in the slightest. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. While being a parent is difficult, there are still courtesies to be followed. Those courtesies include removing a child from a public place if they are not behaving, crying, or screaming. Funny enough, this also teaches the child that their actions are unacceptable and that they will lose out on the fun if they don't behave properly. Not the idiot. Parents with shrieking children do not get to keep eating while their children shriek. Instead, they take turns eating and take the shrieking child outside until they can calm down. It is one thing to get annoyed at children being childish. That's foolish. It's very much another to get annoyed at parents who do not attempt to take the comfort of other people into account. Then when your kids start making an unholy racket, you do something. Everyone's the idiot here. If your child is having a moment, you should remove them from the situation as a courtesy to those around you. Having said that, your recourse was to speak to someone that worked at the establishment and allow them to handle the situation. Parent shaming did not work well for you, but having a member of management speak with them probably would.